Hello, welcome to Venus is the Word. And look, we're really pleased to be with you here today. I've got Jeff and Luke with me, and we're three men who want to contribute to stopping the pandemic, if you like. We've got a big pandemic with this COVID thing happening, but there's a pandemic that's happening even before a virus, and that is the pandemic of domestic violence in our homes, in our streets, in this country. And Luke and Jeff are two men with lived experience, and I'll get to their stories. But certainly, I really appreciate them reaching out and joining me in Venus is the Word, and that's our logo there. Venus is the Word. It's about mind, body, soul, how we can create a pathway for perpetrators, mainly the males who make up the biggest perpetrator of domestic violence, how we can sort of stem this pandemic. We can't develop an immune system, but we can develop a system to cope. But more importantly, about the menfolk not providing the power of control, which is off the roof. So before I go ahead with this, I want to welcome all the listeners, because this is we've got about 10 episodes, and I've been funded by the state government of Queensland to do this. And I thank the state government of Queensland to do this. And we hope to provide more of these sessions, but I've got funded to do 10. And these two guys have gratefully given up their Saturday afternoon, and we're going to come to you on a Saturday, whether it be the morning or not. Just check our Facebook page and we'll tell you the time. But certainly I'm going to introduce you to these gentlemen now who unselfishly want to sort of bare their soul in terms of being part of the solution of change we need to really put into place with our boys and men in this country. And it's about, I was driving here and I thought, this is men's business, but we need the women folk to be and support us and listen to us. And then we need to listen to the women folk as well. Even though it's men's business, it's everybody's business to create a safer place for us. So I'm going to go to Jeff to introduce him first. How are you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Kanat. Yeah, so I'm a reformed perpetrator of domestic violence, and I'm really thankful to be a part of the movement that Kanat's doing, because when I was in that space, or that mental bondage a few years ago now, like, I really wanted to get help, but there wasn't really that much help for perpetrators. So I'm really thankful to Kanat, to really bring more awareness for perpetrators, to essentially just give them the tools and really supporting them, encouraging them to make a change and to be better men for the community, essentially.
Yeah, mate, and like you were saying, and I thank you both of you guys for, you got to bare your souls, and the thing is, you can change, and we've got to allow the opportunity to change, but also at the beginning of this, also, just prevent that mindset sinking in as well. But certainly, I think the big message is there's no judgments here. We're reaching out to everybody. That Venus is the word, in terms of a word to say no judgment. Let's just all work together to create a safer world. Well, a safer street. If we can just rely on our street, if every person listening on this podcast, what can you contribute to make your street safer? One street. And on that note, I'm going to introduce you to Luke. How are you, Luke?
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Want to tell me a bit about yourself and, and joining in like Jeff's. I've known Jeff a bit longer, and I think through Jeff, you were brought on, and I appreciate that as well. So, yeah, tell me a bit about yourself, Luke.
Well, I am a perpetrator of domestic violence. I met Jeff while I was incarcerated at Browling Correctional Centre. We got together, and when he got out, he messaged me on Facebook and asked me if I wanted to be part of this. I've done a few men's change courses since I've been out, mainly circuit breaker, but that's like more being aware of your anger. Still trying to do more. I do believe in change, and I do believe the error of my ways is what brought me undone, and it's not good. But in saying this, there wasn't a lot given to me beforehand as in prevention. Just coming up with solutions to solve the problem of domestic violence and bringing change and awareness that it's not okay. And family respect and family values is what, is really important in life. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, and thanks for that, Luke, and both. Like I said before, it takes a lot of guts to look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I've stuffed up, in a big way. And if you don't mind me, I know you've both shared this with me. You've both served time for domestic violence, and I know in my past I've actually had domestic violence in terms of abuse, in terms of a power, which I didn't know as well, because domestic violence isn't just about the physicality of that, but it does escalate to that. And I think for the our first episode here, everybody, we're going to actually, before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country where everyone's tuning in, where I'm sitting here in Brisbane and where my two guests are sitting. I better do that. But I am in Brisbane, and I'm actually I've spoken to the two lads about talking about the Hannah Baxter story, and people may know the brutal, tragic story of what happened to that mum and her 3 babies. Now, we're going to use her story just on an ABC. I've just given the ABC a free plug there. I suppose we should hit them up for some sponsorship. But a storyline in terms of the key points from this story, which we sort of had a chat about this being the catalyst of our discussion. And I'm actually going to go to the second point. Now, the second point said that police say that the family had domestic and family violence applications put to the court. Now, this is one area which I think it's really, from talking to these two guys, really got my attention, because there are other areas, and over the next 10 episodes we'll explore, and some of that is about how do we treat our own inadequacies internally instead of acting out in power and domination, and that's an important case as well. But I want to go back to the discussion about the police on file saying there was an application in the court and to stay away for 20 metres. Now, we've had a discussion of this before. So as we know it, the magistrate hears the case, and then from that case, the magistrate deems the order, which, it's interesting. I'm going to ask this for any of you two guys to jump in, but where are the gaps in that situation? Where are the faults which isn't being fixed, and they're still doing the same thing? How could we fix the system so that, not just writing a piece of paper and saying, there's your piece of paper, you'll be protected, because we all know that doesn't work. From you, I'm going to go with you first, Luke, in terms of where do you think we could actually look at the system about how do we protect our victims or our aggrieved persons, more in terms of the court system and how they do it. It's how they do it.
The process is still fundamentally flawed in a way that where sometimes the victim has an order of 100 meters put to keep this person away, but the perpetrator hasn't been given any men's programs compulsory before they go to court. So therefore, how can you implement change in the man's mind if he thinks he's done nothing wrong? Also, there should be a clinical psychologist, like a forensic psych, which should be involved. There should be more funding allocated to DV Connect for these purposes in Queensland and every other state in Australia. I reckon Western Australia should be implementing more funding for this as well, because there seems to be a lot more up there than there is down anywhere else at the moment. Yeah, that would be my recommendations. Only for the sake of a forensic psych can actually assess someone and assess the couples in order if there needs to be couples counselling, etc., etc.
Yeah. So just on that, Luke, because I've just, you've informed me and Jeff have informed me that when you go for your DV order, the magistrate sits and determines the order without any professional assistance from psychologists or anyone else, or even the DV Connect person or someone working the field. The magistrate's on their own. So that's what you're saying?
Yeah. So for example, the police, like QPS, can put an interim order on, which is where they've given a temporary order. So that temporary order protects the lady, protects the lady or the guy, and so they have to go to court. They get given a summons to go to court for the DV matter, the DVO order. Then the magistrate assesses on what's happened, but there's been no psychologist recommendation before that or any professional litigation before that. So he pretty much makes it up on what the police are saying.
That's it. Look, I'm going to hold that there because I think we need to explore, and I think you guys mentioned it prior to coming on air, about the victim, if you like, wanting to not separate but seeking help to try and patch it up, and not patch it up, but certainly both having, say, relationship counselling or having some professional help as part of the court system. So we'll come back to that, but I'm going to go to Jeff. Jeff, what's your just in terms of the question of what's the solution to strengthen, I suppose, the court system, because at the moment it's very wishy-washy.
Yeah. I'll have the same question that you asked Luke, sorry.
Yeah, same question, mate. How can we, as a solution, Luke suggested having professional people to advise the magistrate, which makes sense, as opposed to having someone who's done law school and sat in courts and making a decision of relationships. Like, hello.
Yeah, like I'm definitely in the same ballpark as Luke, because like at the end of the day, like it's like the perpetrator is the one that needs help. Like it could be for many reasons. That's how they were raised, they were abused as a kid, or they've just developed bad habits over their life, and they just don't know how to deal with their emotions. So they just, like the victim needs help in that way, but the perpetrator also needs help to deal with, to be a better man. Like there's definitely programs out there, because I was, ordered to do it through the courts and that, but it's sort of mandated to do the course, and it is very long. It's 16 weeks, and which is, can be good, if you go there faithfully for 16 weeks. If you miss a session, you got to repeat it, you do the whole thing again. So I think just coming back to it, like the guy, there should be more focus on the guy to be a better person, because if they become a better person, then they won't be beating up their wife or abusing their partner, sort of thing.
Yeah, and being a threat to themselves and to others.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it goes back to that to the, it's sort of a good way to look, in terms of society and the system, the court system now, looking at the perpetrator, whether they're male or female, and I must stress that, whether they're male or female, and how do we then not, sure, don't get me wrong, we need to protect family and the children, but now how do we treat, I suppose, the treatment of a perpetrator? And I think one of you guys mentioned it earlier, it's about the coping skills, or also the identity, or, in terms of how someone looks inside to challenge themselves, which isn't always easy.
Yeah, yep.
So I probably like to, we've talked about the system having the professional help. Now, I'd probably like to talk about how do we then, like there could be, like, this is going live and this will be uploaded for 2 weeks, this episode, and, we'll be sharing this online with all the DV agencies and men's groups and so forth. So I'm keen to explore, and we're just talking about men, but, this is about how do we recognize, what do we do, what do we need to do to be better at what we do? And you guys have done the hard yards and actually walked the walk, literally, and now you've come out the other end and you want to give back. So I'm keen to chat to both of you. So Luke, what's your thoughts in terms of what do men folk, I'm not going to ask a question, just tell me what you think.
I've come up with a few solutions, especially with the emergence of Zoom during the COVID crisis. There should be more compulsory or mandated Zoom classes that aren't no longer running because of COVID, like men's change classes. They have just been knocked on the head during COVID, and there's been a big resurgence in domestic violence during COVID. There's been, so I think if there was more agencies out there that actually allowed them to be run by Zoom, there'd be a lot of change. And maybe going into the future, that could be a permanent thing, because a lot of people don't want to go into a room of other guys, as so to speak, because of the stigma that comes with it. So they're too ashamed. Some of them, men have pride. They don't want to go into a room with other people. And, I think they'd feel a lot more safer in their home or at the place where they live if they could do it on Zoom.
That's a great point. Now, Luke, I want to ask this to Jeff as well, but you got the mic. Did you at any point realize that you had an issue or a problem, or was it all externally focused? Did you pick on yourself to say, hang on, what's going on? I would like to ask that.
I did. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but it said I didn't really have a good upbringing with my father. My father was abusive to my mother. So I sort of thought it was all right, but it didn't, so to speak, it didn't come out till later on, and only with one particular person. And it's strange that, I was triggered by one person, it's unacceptable behavior. And I look back in hindsight and wish I gotten help earlier.
So when was the turning point? I want to ask this for Jeff as well. So Jeff, you can think about your response, but when was the turning point, or was there a turning point? Was it during, after, like doing time or time in prison? Or whereabouts was the turning point for you that said, I need help or I need to change?
Beforehand, but before I'd actually gone to prison, I knew I needed to get help, but because of the way everything was for me, really, my life was upside down. I sort of just ended up going to jail and being incarcerated. Whereas if I just accepted the help and reached out to support networks, I would have been better off in the long run. You know what I mean? Better off as a person. In hindsight, I wish I had. It wasn't widely advertised, and like this, there needs to be more ads
Yep.
more advertisements, more. It needs to be driven during COVID as well. Like, you know.
Jeffrey. Sorry, I never called you Jeffrey before. Jeff.
It's all good.
This is the official Zoom call.
Yeah.
But when was your turning point? When was your, like, when did you know that, hang on, what's going on?
Like for me, like my ex would, she'll say like, oh, you need help, but I guess for me, I was justifying in my mind, I don't need help, you know. But it wasn't until I actually got arrested and did time, I was like, yeah, I wasn't a good person. And yeah, and that's definitely what I needed though, to really reflect on my actions, you know, my life. You know, it was a real healing time, you know. And and I guess, you know, just touch upon what Luke was saying, like for me, like there was a period of time during the relationship I didn't want to get help, but there wasn't really help out there. Like there was a program through the courts, but you've already gone way too far. And yeah, I can remember just looking on Google, like the only thing that I could see was an anger management course where you had to pay through the roof. And it was just at times that weren't really available. You know, I was like, oh, that's not really cool. But there's always support for the victim, which is, you know, that's definitely necessary, but not as much promotion for courses or anything like that for the perpetrators. Which is,
yeah, look, that's an interesting, yeah. Look, I hear that this is interesting, and I hear that this is a huge. Now, from the very outset, we're looking at solutions, and I'm loving this because this could be a solution. And I think Luke said it earlier, and you both said it, but you know, there's a shame factor, as well.
Yep.
And I think the reason I started Venus is that Venus becomes a word that if you're wanting help, you say Venus to your friends, to your family, to DV Connect, which I've actually had a Zoom call with the CEO of DV Connect. I don't think I've told you guys, but I'll be sending her this link. There should be, the Venus is a code word for all people to know, neighbours, if they hear the word Venus, that means that someone hasn't stubbed their toe and is yelling out. They're yelling out because they're in danger. But that's enough, you know, Venus being a word. And like if our men, and there is, look, we have such a sense of pride and peer pressure, and you know, we have to live up to this blokey bloke image, which that sort of gets in the way. And I think Luke said it earlier about having a Zoom, but not identifying, you know, not having the like this. So that's why you guys are incredible. You guys are like, you know, to be honest, what you guys are doing is amazing, and that's coming from me. But if we can have a process or a program where men don't even have to identify, they just join into a Zoom, or even a conversation online to start offering solutions. Like, because like you're saying, you're caught, it's like being caught in a river, and the rapids are just getting faster and faster and faster along that river, and your canoe needs to be slowed down.
Exactly. It's overwhelming.
Overwhelming, that's the word. Now look, when you said WA, I'm interested now, is there WA having Western Australia, is there a high incidence, is there?
Well, there's the law has only just come out. There seems to be a for example, I've got a cousin up there who's been abused a few times. Her perpetrator's been getting in and out, and for the life of me, I don't know how he's managed to do it. It's not acceptable in my eyes. There seems to be a lot of, I don't know, they seem to protect them a lot more up there. I don't know what they're doing wrong. I wouldn't be able to tell you the legislation. I might look into it tonight. But yeah. And it's only going to get worse because the family courts they've been integrated into one, I think, the Federal Circuit Court.
Okay.
I can see
I'll get you to have a research on that, because before you know it, like it's been 30 minutes. We've only got another 10 minutes to go. This is what time's flying. Now it's interesting. I'm really loving this. Now, as a solution, I think just from like this hasn't been planned. This is all we've had a bit of a catch up before. I told a few of my bad dad jokes. You know, you guys laughed. That was good. But now we're on the raw emotion. We're on raw emotion now, and in terms of creating an avenue for people to get help and like I really like the idea of having someone with the clinical experience at these at the court system to, like, you have a duty lawyer, you could have a duty psychologist, forensic psychologist to sit and whisper to get advice from the magistrate. And if a guy is really reaching out and saying, and like it sounds like both of you, and I think Jeff, I think your voice is sort of saying there's nothing out there I want help, and it's like, so you're just got you, and if you haven't got a good support network, it's just you, and that's a tough gig. And then that rapids gets even more overwhelming.
Yep.
So in terms of sort of having because the other conversation is that it's a complete separation, but then and we'll talk about breaches, but we're sort of running out of time because the partner of the person getting DVO also is reaching out, and they communicate and talk, but that's breaching, and then you can end up in jail.
Yes.
Yep.
And so having a clinical forensic psychologist sitting in the courts can then work with or refer people to other services outside to work along and not let that gap grow bigger, and then you fall in the crack, and then the violence occurs.
Exactly.
Because and the other extreme is people like Rowan Baxter, like I'm going to name and shame him because he's just that was just a dog act.
Yeah.
Like it's lower than a dog act. It's sorry, I shouldn't talk about dogs like that, but certainly that's just beyond comprehension. And any violence is beyond comprehension. So it's about how, we look at a perpetrator reaching out, and we can't, what I'm saying is we're not going to be we're not trying to rescue everybody, but let's start somewhere and reach into, must possibly work with people who, like you guys, like you've spent time, about reaching in and, and changing other people. So so I'm going to ask Jeff, what would you have done differently now that you've been through what you've been through? What is something significant that you'd have done differently, do you think, knowing what you know now?
Just like what I know now is, like I have like a lot of knowledge. I know how to deal with like a lot of challenging situations, like I know how to do the timeouts and a bit more accountable, like I guess previously, like there was more like that blame factor, and that's like what Luke was talking about earlier, like the DV wheel, where it just gets to a point where, like there's a bit of a wedge between the perpetrator and the victim, where the perpetrator just keeps shifting all the blame. It's the victim's fault, the victim's fault. So I guess for me, like I have like a lot of knowledge at this point, and like grown a lot, and that's and really very accountable for my actions now, which is very, very powerful, because if you're not accountable for your actions, it can really lead you to a very dark path, you know.
Absolutely. I like that. Accountable for actions. I've just tagged that. So, Luke, what would have you have done differently, or what have you learnt, or, you know, just in summary?
I would have sought help earlier if I, you know, and I would have, like I've done a lot of courses like emotional intelligence. I'm light years away from where I was before. I can actually see myself now, and like pull myself up, whereas before I didn't have that filter. If you don't know what I mean.
Yeah.
And to me now, like family is the family unit is the most important thing to me in my life. And if I could take it all back, I would. Yeah, and accountability is a big thing going forward in life. Everyone's got to be accountable for their actions. It's a democratic society, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Men should be responsible for their behavior, and that goes for their towards women and children.
Yeah, and it's you know, those two things. The two things I've sort of significant from both of you is, you know, how do we keep the family unit? And I think there's a disintegration of family, the unit in the modern world, and how we as men can contribute to that. And I'm going to go to Jeff's point, is accountable for our actions. And you know, so it's not interesting, but the perpetrators, and I've yelled at my missus, and I've thrown things, and I've said, look what you made me do. Well, they didn't make me do that. My actions, I'm accountable for picking up a vase and smashing a vase on the footpath outside.
Yeah.
I'm accountable for that. But it's the skilling and filling the capacity of the individual to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we can't be everything for everybody, and, you know, and this backs the bloke who just caused that thing. You know, and you said it earlier, Luke, you know, he's a psychopath, and, you know, we can have everyone can have psychopathic, you know, instances, and whether he would have reached out to help or not. But there are also, part of this is also the support networks around us, how we can look in and how other people can look in and help, including neighbours, strangers, neighbours, not even just family, but people coming in as well. But that's another point of view, another subject area. But we're gonna sort of we're getting close to our another 5 minutes, but I'm really keen now, for part of this narrative is to start talking about the accountability for actions, and I reckon there would be people out there, men and some women too, but certainly men who we start even talking about in future episodes about some of that programs that you guys have done. And what's one of those? You've both done circuit breaker. Somebody tell me about the circuit breaker program in terms of men being held accountable for their actions.
You want to go, Jeff? Or
Yeah, sure. Like, because I took a program for the government a few years prior to that, and there was that shame factor there. So I guess the cool thing about the circuit breaker, like that shame factor isn't there. So it's coming from a place of love, you know, like people, all the perpetrators already know that they've made mistakes in their life, and it's just like, that's all good. We don't agree with that, but we're here to love you up, and we want to see you to be a better person. So it's really cool. Like the whole 10 sessions is just really loving and encouraging, and that's what guys need to be better men. And like, yeah, that's like the flip side to the other program that I took. You know, it's like all that shame factor there. Like, you're a bad person, you should feel bad. So they're already condemning themselves inside, and they don't really need that to come to a group and then have that. So
Yep. Yeah, it's about sharing the love of the individual and
Yep.
saying the love. And I think, Luke, you've spoken about how, if you look after yourself. Tell me about looking after yourself so that you become accountable for your actions. How do you look after yourself?
I think so. What leading up to what happened with me was I didn't like myself as a person. I learned to love myself again, and in that I healed. Once I healed, and once I could love myself, I can love someone else the same because I respect them, because I respect myself. And I think that's what it comes down to. If you respect yourself, if you have empathy, love, all those attributes, you can easily give it to someone. And that you can give it to your family really easily, and your family will love you for it. They'll be more receptive to you. Everyone will like you. You'll be a better person. So I think it's common sense.
Yeah, but our society, the men's society, guys are not supposed to be, guys are supposed to be blokey blokes. And I think, I know it's changing. But, you guys are not, you two are blokey blokes. I haven't met you, Luke, but Jeff's a intimidating character in a good way. He's tall, dark, and handsome, if I can say that. And you just have to turn the love inside. And because I know when I've been just on my personal experience, and even now, like in relationships, not just with my female partner, but with my daughters, with my neighbours. If you look after yourself, that self-love, you don't challenge yourself, and you don't sort of not hate yourself, but you can hate yourself, but certainly you're in competition with yourself, whereas you should, we try and get in tune. And I think the circuit breaker program or any other programs you fellas have done is about, looking inside and because you can only change. And I think that's a message that we can continue in our talks. I think that we'll be on a good state, and who knows, that there could be a bloke. And like I said to you earlier, I'm working with 6 young boys, if you like, 14 to 16, and 3 of them have got DVO orders on them at 14 and 16 years of age against their girlfriends. So we really have to start intervention. I think us men folk and boys, we've got to be part of the solution. We've got to start putting our stuff in there. And I think just in summary, and what I've got out of this is that, the court system within the police and the policing system that out here, the DVO and then the courts, and keeping people separate, that needs to be reassessed in terms of clinical support, in terms of professionals sitting there with magistrates to assist them case by case. Not one size doesn't fit all.
Exactly.
And if someone is a psychopath, well, then you can sort of say, hey, this guy's going to kill someone. If that was the case. So they went to court and got a the Baxter situation. He got a DVO, but there was no clinical psychological report on that, who could have picked up that this man's dangerous, and could have stopped that. And the other point that I've talked about this is that accountability, that we've got to be accountable. We've got to work on that accountability, but also to get to that point, like you guys are saying, there needs to be if it's a Zoom, if it's this podcast, I don't know, but there needs to be a something out there, because at the moment there's nothing until you're at the pointy end.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm going to use your examples and in a positive way, but it's taking you to go to the big house to work it out, not work it out, but guide you to a way. Whereas if that could not be, it'd be good for everybody in terms of, is that fair to say, do you think?
It's definitely fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. the both of you now sort of giving back and accountability for those actions. And so that's I've got some themes for our next gathering, and also the family unit. And Jeff, Luke, sorry. Yeah, let's not forget what's important to us is our family and friends and those around us and those attributes. And I've spoken to Luke and both Jeff and regularly, it's just redefining your life in terms of where you're at and just that self-awareness as well. So those three areas, the court systems, how the courts are treating it, accountability for the actions, love for yourself and family, and also I think in hindsight, it's about how bystanders can be also part of the solution, not to just keep someone safe, but to come in and say, hey, dude, you really need to seek some help on your behaviour. And that could be the thing that pushes people over. So on that note, look, it's been this is our first gig, so well done, fellas. You've done really well, and I'm a seasoned veteran at this, apparently, but you guys have done really well. So I'm going to just, in summary, Luke, you want to say something in summary? Then I'm going to go to Jeff, and then we'll sign off.
Just to any man out there that needs help, I just recommend just get it. You need that inner healing, my friend. If you know that you knowing yourself, if your ideas are wrong, if your wife or your missus, or if it's the other way around, if your husband's scared of you, seek help. Right? It's easy. There's places out there. You just got to reach out. Don't be afraid. Just do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. Find your inner peace, mate, and you'll be able to heal from that. Once you healed yourself, everything will fall into place.
And that's from lived experience, Brad.
That's lived experience.
Good work. Jeffrey.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks again for the opportunity to be a part of it. Yeah, and it's not too late. If there's any men out there, it's not too late to change. You might be going down a dark path, but it's not too late. There is help, like what Luke was saying. To turn back around and to be a better man. For your partner, kids, the community.
Fantastic. Look, thanks again. And this is one of, I think I've been budgeted for 10 of these broadcasts. So this is the first one and first go. And we're going to circulate these. And if you're listening, if you're on the Facebook page, please circulate, because you never know. One of your family or friends could really need to hear some of this stuff that could change theirs and others' lives around them. And I'd like to thank Zane from That's Not Canon Productions of Podcasts. Go to his website. He's a good bloke. Good looking too. So that's a bonus. But certainly, look, thanks for these two guys for being brave and courageous. And I call people like you guys getaway drivers because you know that you can get people and help people to a better place and get them away from the fire and the brimstone where they're at. So well done and congratulations, men. I'm glad to be on this walk and talk with you. So to our listeners, we're going to say a big see you later.